We are whole and complete as we are. We are a divine fractal of God, and God is within your consciousness. It's just a matter of how much of that you're going to recognize and then utilize. As we advance our consciousness and we deal with certain entities and beings that are more advanced than human beings, they don't war like that. They don't war like that. They know how to manipulate the mind. And that's what
Mm.
we have here. We have a manipulation of the mind because this is what is going on is a war. And it's a war that's been going on for a while, but it's a war that's played with consciousness. We are not imprisoned by anything, Adrian, except for what we tell ourselves that we're imprisoned by. I don't even like using the word spirituality because it's been co opted, right?
Sure.
It means the whole love light and it's all good and it's all love. It just promotes passivity, is what it promotes
Yes.
passivity. They never talk about strength. Then it never talks about your will. It never talks about harnessing your intention. It never talks about self discipline. It never talks about any of those things. And there's a reason for that. This is the opposite. For those that want to change their life, this is actually why I'm here. Welcome, everybody. I have a special treat for you. I had a fantastic conversation with my friend Adrian, who honestly has been trying to get me on his show for quite a while. So I'm glad that we were able to finally connect. And this is an important interview because I talk about things that I don't think you've ever heard me talk about before. So pay attention to this interview. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom, and there's things that we can all learn from. And if you are unaware, there's a link for my brand new course called Master the Mystic Arts. Don't miss it. If you're interested in health and personal success, this course is the perfect blend, and you're going to be shocked at how they go together. Click on the link below and enjoy the interview.
And I know we're going to talk about your accident and your recovery in terms of healing yourself and things like that. But I would love to get more of an insight as to what your life was like before the accident. It was because when I listen to your books and I listen to your podcast, I listen to other interviews that you've done, I can see the trajectory from the healing part to now. Um, you talk like just a minute ago, you were saying things like, I get a sense of, where I need to be. I get a calling. Was that some of that part of you when you were growing up as a child or into adolescence, or was it sort of something that just discovered from the point of the accident, and then that's when your gifts started to arise?
That's a good question. Uh, I would say much more so after uh, after waking up and near death, and then truly waking up, literally and figuratively.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was different after that. I had moved around a little bit prior to that, but it was more so like I kind of joke that when I woke up from surgery, it was kind of like RJ 2.0.
Hmm.
I talk about that my functionality was greatly enhanced, my capabilities, talents and abilities that I had before, but it's just like it's like they had been totally turned on. And so just being in touch and in tune with, what to do, when to do it, what to say, what not to say, who to say it to, where to go, where not to go. It just feels like so tangible to me that there's no way to misinterpret and there's no way to ignore, or deny, sort of like these intuitive nudges that sometimes are more than a nudge. They were there before, just not as pronounced.
Mm.
I can look back now, Adrian, and it's pretty easy to see that the years, especially the last, I would say, like 4 years preceding, getting sick. I was, my understanding now is I was about as close as you can get to being enlightened and not being enlightened, and I was totally okay with that. That was good enough. Um,
Sure.
I was able to, do certain things, certain abilities, past life readings, and all the, certain higher intuitive functions had been working pretty well since I was in my 20s and that kind of thing. So I was quite satisfied, and my ego was quite
Mm.
satisfied with being, you know, not quite there, but just knocking on the door. But clearly, my true self had other other things in mind. And so the destruction of my body really was the destruction of the ego mind identity. There was nothing left of that character.
Mm.
That character's life ended. I mean, I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't move it. Um, Everything that I was doing before, the way that I had led my life was gone. It was gone
Mm.
in an instant. The money that I had saved that I could was gone through medical bills. So it's like everything I was born again. That's what I talk about. I was literally free. I was free from a outside looking in. We would say that holy cow, your life is kind of over, and it's really the opposite. I really feel like my life began that
Yeah.
day. I finally felt like I was finally here. The real me was finally here and unencumbered. But the higher intuitive functionality and getting a sense of things was greatly increased. And even in the new book, The Law of Attention, that comes out August 8th, there's a chapter. It might even be more than a chapter, but it's a chapter on higher intuitive functionality, clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, all these kind of things. But what I've decided to do in this book, I list a lot more. There's a lot more higher intuitive functions that we're kind of unaware of, and we certainly don't talk about. And so I list, I think there's 12 of them or 15 of them. Most of
Hmm.
us know about three of them or five of them or something like that. But there's a whole bunch of other extrasensory perceptions or higher intuitive functionality that we can access. And in the book, I list them. And in the book, I actually talk about what to do to turn those on.
Nice.
Because all of those things, like I said, through the destruction of the ego mind identity, which always remains, but through not it not leading the incarnation anymore, all the talents and abilities of the true self were finally online. And so
Mm.
I capture what some of those are and how to do them in the new book.
Nice. So your story is a common theme. That sort of upgrade of consciousness post accident is, when you speak to people with that have had near-death experiences or any sort of catastrophic moment, whether it be a death of a family member, a divorce, just some sort of cataclysm, that kind of an event that catapults them into a higher state of being. So I'd love for you to walk me through the event that happened in terms of your illness and how you recovered, but then maybe speak to, like, what do you think it is that switches that upgrade button on in that moment? Because it's almost like a juxtaposition. You have a moment where everything is being tried to, like, turn off, like you're in your case, your body was shutting down. Things were were coming undone. So to have the opposite of that, which is to have everything switched on and upgraded in a sense, like, yeah, I would love to have you explore that side of it for me, so I can at least get an idea of inside your mind as to how you think or why you think that this happens.
That's a great question, Adrian. Okay, so I had been sick. Uh, this is back in the end of 2020, the very end, Thanksgiving, Christmas, 2020, and then I was told I had 48 hours to live come April um, of April the following year. So I had been sick. I started to feel very weak. I started to feel I couldn't focus. And I've always had good mental clarity and the ability to focus. That was it was leaving me.
Mm.
I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do it. It actually got to the point where I couldn't meditate, which is for me, it's like not being able to breathe. So my body was literally, and it turned out it was because of sepsis. It was just poison everywhere. So my body was literally just starting to shut down, literally. So I remember at one point, after being sick for a few months, feeling terrible, weak, it took everything I had in me to go from the couch to the bed and just lie down. right? So at that point, I was like, all right, so I'm not a fan of Western medicine, but at this point,
You need it.
yeah, I think I got to do something because this ain't working. So I went to the urgent care, and they took some blood work and did this and that. He's like, your A1C or your blood sugar level is like 720. He's like, you're really sick. He goes, there's something wrong with your white blood cell count, and he's like, you need to go to the ER right now. It's like you're in some kind of crisis, right? So I was like, oh, okay. So I went to the ER, um, and they literally told me that I had 48 hours to live. I had severe sepsis. They actually asked if I had a will. If I didn't have a will, I should probably write one out right now. We'll do everything we can, but the sepsis is it's everywhere. It's in your bloodstream. It's everywhere. Your body is shutting down, right? So um, I just felt they were wrong. I did feel my body was shutting down, but I knew it wasn't the end. That's all I can say about that because the real uh, turning point comes a couple months later. So what they did was they gave me some kind of experimental antibiotic for the sepsis.
Mhm.
And the short version of it is I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they eventually released me. They said I had type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's autoimmune disease,
Yeah.
but the sepsis they kind of felt the antibiotic was taking care of it, and the antibiotic was so strong, Adrian, that they had to put almost like a stent in my arm, and then I would have to administer the antibiotic into the stent. I couldn't do it directly into the vein because it was so strong. So they gave me that, and I was there for 2 weeks, and then I had to take it for another 6 weeks or 8 weeks once they discharged me. Well, whatever they gave me was a band aid because 8 weeks later is when I literally became paralyzed, had to be rushed from the same sepsis. So it had gotten into my spine. So it was addressing my blood, but it had literally gotten into my spine because my back started to hurt in ways that just seemed unimaginable. So after getting released, being told that this should take care of it, is actually when I became paralyzed from the chest down, was rushed to the emergency room to have emergency surgery to remove this infection that had literally compressed my spine, and it was gigantic. It went from pretty much T5 to T10, which is a big section of the back, but
Yeah.
the focus was on 7 and 8. And there's an MRI of this in that video of me unparalyzing myself. You can actually see it. It's quite pronounced what my spine looks like. I mean, it was as thin as a piece of paper. It was completely compressed, and so I had to have emergency surgery, which it was a laminectomy. So they scraped off the spine. So at that point, the sepsis was back again, and that's when I woke up from surgery. That's when I had the emergency surgery. And when I woke up, I I, I mean, I woke up into authentic cosmic consciousness. I described it as I remember everything. Like in the instant that I was awake, I started telling the nurse in the ICU who came in right away. I literally started explaining to her in great detail how healing works, how to put yourself back together using the energetic templates, which are then feed into the chakra system. So I started explaining all this, and then I also started explaining how to reach enlightenment, like what self-realization enlightenment actually is, and it's a process that anyone can undergo, and this is actually what you do. And I said, now I remember everything. I remember everything now, and in 100 days, this is what I'm telling her in the ICU. I
Mhm.
tell her in 100 days, I'm going to walk out of here unassisted. I won't be paralyzed at all. And the litany of diseases that I've been diagnosed with will be completely and utterly resolved. And so she's looking at me, not like I have three heads. She's
Yeah.
looking at me like she can't believe what I'm saying. But at the same time, it was too specific and I was too clear for it to
Mm.
be like, this guy's just crazy or he's still high from the anesthesia. I was too clear. And she's looking at me and she goes, how do you know any of this? And I said, listen, the only way I can explain it is that I remember. I absolutely remember how all of this works. And so then I spent the next 10 or 12 days in the hospital. And then I got transferred to the rehab facility, which was part of the hospital. And I spent another 7 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that. So it was a little over 2 months total.
Mm.
And I capture all this in the first book, Supercharged Self Healing.
Yeah.
I was told day 2 in the ICU that I'll never walk again. The damage to the spine is so severe that you can't overcome it. There's only 65 people that have ever been diagnosed with what they diagnosed me with. All of them are dead except one. And the one that isn't dead has no use of anything. They're, you know, they can't,
Good.
there's nothing that functions, right? So I told them, listen, I'm gonna heal everything. I know exactly what to do, and I'm gonna do it in exactly 100 days. On the 100th day, I will walk unassisted, and I'll show no signs of anything. Okay, Mr. Speaker, that sounds good. Just lie back and relax, you know.
Mm.
So the next 100 days, while in a state of grace, while in a state of cosmic consciousness, were the most grueling, agonizing moments of my life. Because I think
Wow.
what has happened for people is that they just assume I woke up with God consciousness, which is true. I had to put my body back together. That was in the level of pain of a crushed spine and then a rekindling
Mm.
the nerve pathways all the way down from my spine, all the way down on my toes, the diseases, everything. What that took was absolutely everything that I had, everything that I had. And I mean it. That kind of focus and dedication and willingness to go through pain that is it's the kind of pain that you just start screaming. You it's so severe that doesn't stop. And I had to learn how to meditate in that state. I had to learn how to heal myself in that state, and I did. I had to remember it. But that whole process captured the send the frequency healing technique, which is what makes up the crux of supercharged self
Mm.
healing. So, but to go to your question about, I mean, it's obvious. And we all do this. I planned something so traumatic and so life changing that it would force me to completely awaken. And so the difference between RJ before waking up from surgery and RJ waking up from surgery was a massive upgrade without question. And so I can explain it this way. What I call body consciousness is the identification with the body, right? And therefore the over utilization and identification with physical sensory perception. And therefore that's the data stream that creates the intellect. Okay. So that's kind of personhood. That's what the human character is. That's what I call the ego mind identity is the identification with the body. And therefore this becomes body consciousness, physical sensory perception, and then the intellect. Everything else, for the most part, is completely turned off. Completely turned off. So through the destruction of my body, I couldn't feel it. Like, from the chest up, I could, but I couldn't feel
Mm.
anything from the chest down. So it's like I wasn't in my body anymore. So there was no identification left with my body at all. It's kind of like the feeling you get when you finally leave your body, but I was still here and I was still in my body because I've been leaving my body since I was a kid. So
Right.
the real me was here because there was no identification to the body. So therefore, the utilization and identification with physical sensory perception and therefore thinking and the intellect and logic and linearity, Adrian, had just kind of been turned off. It's just running in the background. And what was running was higher intuitive functionality or extrasensory perception. So clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, and all these other ones that I list in the book were literally turned on. So the switch that occurred is the non-identification with the physical body. And that's what opens the
Okay.
door to the talents and abilities of the true self or the I am. And
Mm.
that's the shift, and that's what occurred in the most dramatic and most severe ways. Like I said, still in a body that you can't feel, that doesn't work. So it's like that part of me that identified with my body was gone. which
Yeah.
just was gone. So what was left was higher intuitive functionality.
Mm. And I guess a large part of your teaching, from what I can understand, is you're trying to prevent people from going through some um, near-death experience in order to tap into that. Like it's it's like, yeah, do we all have to be paralyzed before we can get this upgrade, or do we can we get this a lot sooner with a lot less hassle? That I think that's a uh, that's definitely something enlightening, or something that I need to push towards, because I think it's it's so, I think, sleek and sexy and easy to fall into that ego mind, and just being connected to your sensory perceptions, your body, and just everything that's going on in the world, and all the stuff that's connecting with the to-do list that you have in your mind, and you detach from anything else outside of that. And then even if it does come into your consciousness in some way, it's almost played down like just a smaller event, or something that I don't need to listen to at the moment. I can afford to ignore it until such time where the universe decides to hand you a nice little backslap in order to get you to wake up to all the nudges that it's been giving you. Does it make sense?
Yeah, completely. So the hierarchy of importance switches completely. And oftentimes, just like you said, it takes something traumatic, a near death experience, uh, getting struck by lightning, or something really dramatic to completely rearrange the hierarchy of importance. So
Mm,
from what happens instantaneously, because I couldn't feel my body, so it's almost like it wasn't there. So anything associated with body consciousness, and body consciousness, the things that you see, the things that you touch, the things that you smell, the things that you chase after, that we all do, they were just gone. I just had my state of being became the single most important element of my life. My state of beingness, right? Because I said that I told everyone I'm gonna put my body back together, and even if I don't, I'm at peace with everything.
right,
So it's
wow.
the at peace with everything. So that's really what it's about. And the ego mind can't hold those two seemingly contrarian ideas at the same time, because for the ego mind, it's this or it's that. It's right or it's
Mm,
wrong. It's good or it's bad. The true self is everything. It's got space for everything. So it can hold many different truths simultaneously at the same time. So I really was truly at peace, as I am now. But at the same time, I was able to harness myself with a single pointedness of focus that I knew that I would bring about literally putting my destroyed body back together. But what was important to me prior to becoming paralyzed and then waking up, it had switched. The hierarchy of it was gone. All that stuff was meaningless to me. It didn't register anymore. It wasn't on the scale. It was my state of being and my state of consciousness. And the only thing I was really interested in was marinating
mm,
in that, and bringing out more of that. And when I say bringing out more of that, in terms of my which we all have, in terms of my talents and abilities as a creator, to literally put my body back, I didn't care about anything else. It was of no interest. And dare I say, one of the smartest things I did was, I had my partner at the time, because my friends and family were like, RJ, are you okay? Like, what is going on?
mm,
So I knew that for me to put myself back together was going to take a true Herculean effort. And Hercules is an incarnation of Master R, by the way. It would take a true Herculean effort. Everything I had to put myself back together. So I couldn't be distracted by anyone, even people well meaning who loved me, who wanted to know what was going on. I told my partner, tell everybody, and coming from me, it wouldn't be that unusual. Tell everybody, don't email, don't call, don't text, leave me alone. And when I'm ready, I'll contact you all, because what I have to do, I have to focus in ways that I haven't had to focus in this life in order to turn things around. So I had no interest anymore. The hierarchy of importance had flipped, and there really was. I was at peace, and all I was doing was working with myself, using the healing technique that's in that book. And
mm.
I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. It was just the opposite. I was full, complete, in a state of joy, totally happy while in agony.
Yeah, it's incredible.
While in total agony. So yeah, it's a switch. It's a switching of hierarchy importance, Adrian. The
Mm,
body consciousness and what's out there gone. All the focus was within and what can be brought out.
mm. Can I ask you, RJ, why did you think you went to, because you mentioned a moment ago the word God consciousness, and I want to know, why do you think that you went within and healed within, as opposed to what some people might go, I'm going to ask God to intervene, or to for guidance. So they go outside of themselves to a higher consciousness and ask God for permission to heal. Um, Whereas you seem to have gone internally, and you use the words God consciousness in order to heal yourself from within. Can you explain to me, why do you think you went that way, as opposed to going to church every week and dedicating yourself to Jesus, or whatever religion, so to speak?
Yeah. So God is within our consciousness, not outside of our consciousness. So that was a tangible knowingness. So there is no outsourcing. That is a delusion, which just creates disempowerment. That doesn't actually work. Metaphysically, that doesn't actually work. So there is nothing outside of your consciousness. Everything is within your consciousness. And so this was a tangible knowingness. And some of these things I tangibly knew even before the destruction of my body, but it wasn't so clear until everything had been destroyed. So no, there was no reaching out. There's no outsourcing. We are a fractal of God. I mean, literally. So we are whole and complete as we are. There is nothing outside of your consciousness. There's nothing to reach out for. And so when we start to realize the master within, we don't ask for permission. It's not required. By us existing, we have permission to be an unlimited immortal creator being, which is exactly what we are, being a fractal of God. So this was tangible to me. So this was not about outsourcing. This was not about disempowering myself through beliefs. This was not asking for some kind of special dispensation. I knew God is within my consciousness, and like I said, it was about me bringing that out, and that is literally what occurred. This remembering. It
Mm,
wasn't a download. It wasn't, I was given. That's not accurate. This was what had my focus had been on body consciousness. And when that was gone, the focus was now within the self and the I am. And that's where all our love and wisdom is. So it
mm,
was just a matter of as I was saying, marinating within that and then bringing that out. And hopefully, me doing this is the permission slip for everyone else to do the impossible for themselves. And if they're
mm,
wondering, how to do it. My books are the solution for self healing, for self mastery, for manifestation. They're the solution, they're the step by step process of actually what to do. They're not informational. There's no need, my friend, to outsource anything. We are whole and complete as we are. We are a divine fractal of God, and God is within your consciousness. It's just a matter of how much of that you're going to recognize and then utilize.
that's powerful. So how do you break free from the limitations, or the I guess the illusion of limitations? There's a people would listen to this and they would say, well, that's fine for you, but for me, you don't understand my life. They might say that you have the gift of these techniques and healing modalities, and you've written books, and so like they, I guess, put you on a pedestal to say that you're different from me, not realizing that we are both human, and we're both on this earth. Like we there's really very subtle differences, apart from DNA strands and looks and hair, and all those sorts of things, right? So what how do you break that illusion of limitation? That seems to be something that almost plagues 99% of the planet.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, Change Your Mind, the second book, Change Your Mind, is the step by step process of how to deprogram your mind of limiting beliefs. So the short answer is those are just thoughts. So
Sure.
right. So when someone says, "Oh, RJ, okay, that's good for you," and maybe him or her, but you don't know, but just like you said, you don't know my life. That those are all just thoughts. That's what they are. So all thoughts are in context to a belief, a concept, an ideology. So all thoughts are always in context to something. right? Now, none of those are what we actually are. They're all temporary energetic placeholders, is what I call them. And all
Hmm.
thoughts are equal in weightlessness. So, what the hell does that mean? Okay. So, thoughts are, as an example, thoughts are like a cloud. There's nothing really there. There's no, there's just nothing there, right? It is our belief in the authenticity of the thought that gives it its weight and sway over our consciousness. But there's nothing actually there except our belief in the authenticity and therefore the veracity of the thought or belief itself. They're empty. They're all empty. And that's why I say they're all equal in weightlessness. So we can have these thoughts about I can't do that, or you don't know what my situation is, or this and that. Yeah, you're right, but it doesn't matter because those are just thoughts. So there's nothing there except your belief in them, which is what gives them their weight. So one of the I don't know how familiar you are with those the instantaneous meditation magic tricks that I talk about how to go into meditation in 1 second,
Hmm.
which stops the programming. So one of which that I always share with people is pretend you just arrived here, no past, no future. Now, when you do that, your mind stops because thinking is past, future, right? So now
Hmm.
you're really here. Now, in that moment of being purely present, there is no past or future, which means there is nothing to actually overcome. There is no story that you're telling yourself. There is no weight of thoughts and beliefs. You're free. And in that moment of freedom, you will realize that you can actually do anything that you set your mind to if you command your mind properly. It's the story and us believing in it. Now, the key to understand is if you're aware of some story about yourself, I get it if you're aware of it, but that's proof that it's not you because you're the awareness. If you were the story, you wouldn't be able to tell me about it. So you must be something other than the story itself. One cannot be the awareness and the victim at the same time.
Hmm.
That's impossible. So it's because we believe in the story, our attention has been so fixated on our story for so long that we have lost ourself, lost our true self in the story. But upon detachment and then clarity, we will realize that none of those things actually hold you down. It's only your belief in the veracity of your identification with them that they become heavy and full of weight and therefore have sway over your consciousness. But all thoughts, when looked at clearly, all thoughts are equal in weightlessness and they have no sway over you unless you believe in them.
Interesting. So it's very mundane, or at least very simplistic in terms of just believing in a new thought. So am I on the right track?
I would even say, yeah, we can switch our beliefs. I mean, we can be just use religion as an example, right? Okay. So
Okay.
we can be raised or have chosen Buddhism, which I love, by the way, right? But you could take your beliefs and say, you know what? I'm really into Hinduism now, and I'm going to convert to Hinduism or Judaism or Christianity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Because none of them are actually you. That's why, right? One can change 1,000 times in a day and still be wearing the same clothes. So those are beliefs. They're not you. So there's nothing holding you down except what you believe is holding you down. So what it comes down to at the highest levels is that it has nothing to do with believing. It's the opposite. It's not believing and not disbelieving, but staying in a state of non-belief, which is detachment. And therefore you're not tethered to anything, which rekindles our inner freedom and which allows us to create whatever life we actually like. We
Mm.
we are not imprisoned by anything, Adrian, except for what we tell ourselves that we're imprisoned by.
Can you give me an example of that? Like, you play that out in real life.
I believe in a heaven out there,
Hmm.
right? Because a lot of people will say that, right? Lots of people, and their version of heaven might be different based upon their religious beliefs, their spiritual beliefs, etc. Right? I believe in a heaven out there. Okay, there is no out there, right? There's everything is within you and it's projected outwardly. So this is what I mean about beliefs. Beliefs, by definition, are disempowering because the landing spot, just follow me, the landing spot of any belief is always outside of the self. I believe in a heaven out there. There's
Sure.
nothing outside of your consciousness. Everything is projected from within and outward. So all of those things are disempowering. The only reason why we use beliefs, concepts, and ideologies is because we have lost, temporarily, lost our connectivity to our inner knowingness because we are so far, we've fallen so far down the frequencies
Mm,
that we've lost the connectivity of knowingness. And the knowingness has been replaced with believing. But beliefs, by definition, are disempowering because their landing spot is always outside of you. And the truth of the matter is, there is nothing outside of your consciousness.
mm. Yeah, it's profound. I think there's when you start to think about how your life is projected forward, you start to then recount all of the things that you've borrowed, the beliefs that you've borrowed from society, from your parents, from events, that could shape your life to help you, or in at least encourage you to think and act and feel a different way about someone, something, a religion, a particular place, event, whatever it may be. So, how would you help people discover? What would be a way for people to discover how to challenge those belief systems? Because I think being aware of a particular pattern, behavior, belief system that is maybe holding me back, or creating a limitation, or at least a perceived limitation in my life at the moment, whether that be a relationship, a job, money, business, call it whatever you want, health. So how do I break that belief system down, and challenge that in a way that doesn't cause some sort of psychotic episode to make my life come crushing down, that my whole life has been a lie, and I haven't been living to my highest self, my highest purpose.
Well, that last part that you said is going to be true. Now, the psychotic break might not necessarily have to happen, but there is going to come a moment for those who do serious inner work, and they're going to realize that their life has been their ego mind identity, their character, and not them. So
Mm.
I referenced the second book, Change Your Mind, because there is a process about a set of self inquiry questions to get to the core motivation of why you're doing what you're doing. Because most of us are on autopilot. We're just doing it. We don't really know why we're doing it. And so when we ask ourselves, why am I doing that? The first answer to we get is just a justification. It's not the core motivation. So we must uncover the core motivation. And what I found by people who do the exercise in that book is they begin to realize that everything they're doing in their life, the core motivation doesn't come from them. It comes from their mom, their dad, the internet, school, their friends, grandma, grandpa, you know, clergy, etc., etc., etc. That everything about their life is inauthentic in that it's been put. But this is the beauty, though.
Very confronting.
This is the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. I
Mm,
mean, doesn't the caterpillar have to destroy itself
sure.
to become what it really is, right? And you could say the same thing about myself. Didn't I have to destroy everything to wake up? It's true, but you don't have to become paralyzed. You don't have to do that. But if you do, Adrian, if you question why you're doing what you're doing, it's like why do I think that way? Why do I feel that way? You literally ask yourself that question. The book explains an actual process. It's simple. It's so powerful. You got to get to the core motivation as to why you're thinking, feeling, and doing what it is that you're doing. And what you're going to recognize is that our life is being led not by the desires of our true self. It's going to be what was implanted into us by mom, dad, him, her, this, that, the, et cetera, et cetera. And it's only until we see that it doesn't come from us that we can then say, you know what, that's got nothing to do with me. That's what my dad used to say all the time. Or that's my crazy mom. She used to say that all the time. That's got nothing to do with me. Once you recognize it, and only in that moment of pure recognition within the conscious mind, can you delete it like a useless program off your computer. That doesn't serve me anymore. That belief, that concept, that doesn't serve me anymore. It didn't come from me. Delete. And so as you do that, you're literally cracking open the ego mind identity. And what's going to remain is Superman, the S with the capital self, the I
Mhm.
am, the presence within us all. But until we question what we're doing, we will just keep doing it because these are the things that are buried in the subconscious. So the subconscious is the 95% reality creator, right? The subconscious is what is imbuing and directing the thinking mind. The thinking mind has very little effect on reality creation. Very little effect. It's woefully ineffectual in terms of creating great change. We're running these deep programs. So until we go within and start asking, why the hell am I, why do I even think this way? Why do I feel this way? Why am I doing this? Until it's investigated, those sub programs will keep imbuing your thought process, and the body follows the mind. So we have to ask those questions. And there's a beautiful, simple process and change your mind. It's called the 14-day notebook exercise. And it's something that I did years and years and years ago to wake myself up, to get as close to enlightenment as I could at the time. But it actually shows all the programs you're running. They're all limiting. That's the thing, Adrian. They're all limiting,
Mm.
all of them. And until we start to see them, we will keep recycling the program and therefore getting the same experience over and over and over again. We have to see it consciously to recognize it doesn't come from me. That's not me. It doesn't serve me. Delete. And the more you do that, the more free that you will become.
Mm. Yeah, I can recall now going through that process as I was listening to the book. And it was just interesting that a lot of the time, what seemed to arise once I sort of scratched the surface and got beneath to the core reasons as to why I was doing or thinking or feeling a certain way, it was typically a need that wasn't met from when I was a child. And the moment that I could meet that need in as an adult, almost like parent myself in that moment, um, it seemed to release the charge, almost like a frequency or an energetic connection or pull towards that particular train of thought, that feeling, like how I was feeling. And sometimes I would just emote, like I would just cry. It would just bring up on this sort of plume of emotions, and it will kind of just erupt. And I have a little cry and then release, and then I just feel, I don't know, calm, peace,
The
relaxed.
yeah, well, you did the work, and that's why. So, but the interesting thing to me, I'm out of my mind. But the interesting thing to me is that you said you can trace most of it back to what we don't get. All parents fuck up their children. It's just,
Yeah.
do they do it uniquely, or do they okay? So they all do it, and God bless them. They're all trying their best. So you understand? Okay. So, but what you said, I think, is very, very interesting and also very true. Okay. So as a child, we keep outsourcing everything to get everything from mom, dad, brother, sister, society, right? And as an
Mhm.
adult, by doing that work, you realize that you were able to give to yourself, because it's already within you, what you were seeking outwardly as a kid. So this is profound. This is absolutely profound, because this goes back to what I've been harping on for millions of years, is that the self is whole and complete as it is. And so as a kid, we are, because the five physical senses are outwardly projected. So we're always reaching outward. So we think to get what we need, and on some level we have to, because we can't take care of ourselves. So everything is about what we can get from especially our parents. But you realize, just by doing that, you gave yourself what it is that you didn't get there, because it's already within you and it's always within you. If we can start to understand this,
Mm.
we will stop reaching out, whether it's from mom and dad, or guidance from somebody, including
Mhm.
me, or from a doctor, or from this or from that. That it's already contained within us, and you discovered that along with other people. But I think that's the profound message about that, is that we were reaching out to get it, and then you gave it to yourself and you were able to move on.
Mm. Absolutely. Can I ask you, RJ, when you went through this process and like now, when I look at a snapshot of your life, as I can just assume it would be, I would say that most of it is thinking about how I can help humanity move closer towards the position that you have created for yourself. Um, you would do that through your books, through your webinars, through your courses, through events, through one-on-one coaching and healing modalities and sharing your message, right? So, in a sense, you have gone through that process of your body breaking down, upgrading your human consciousness, but you've also integrated it back into
Mm.
life in a practical sense. So you haven't put on a white robe and uh, got a walking cane and sat on a mountain and you know, lived off fresh air for the rest of your days and just detach yourself from humanity. You've actually brought yourself closer to humanity and
Mm.
implemented and integrated all of your life lessons into a way that you can have an impact and have purpose and have meaning. And I think a lot of people that would listen to this podcast would be in a state of, you know what, I am on a goal and of pursuing my passion and my dreams. And I do want to live a life that is more congruent and more integrated with my values and my belief systems. So can we speak to that a little and yeah, because there's this huge push at the moment that I feel that people are gravitating towards spirituality, and then they also are either doing that or they're moving towards some sort of religious aspect um of spirituality, I guess. But there are two extremes. So there's the one that you said, I'm giving everything off to God and I'm outsourcing all of my power and abdicating all of that to somebody else. And then there's the pure spiritual one, which is the, yeah, I'm gonna wear the beads and I'm gonna have all the clothing and all that kind of stuff and everything is love and light I'm not interested in any kind of antagonistic opinion of things. So I'm just easy breezy, with everything. But there's a middle ground which I think I particularly gravitate towards where the rubber meets the road because if you do nothing but think positive thoughts, well, you might feel good, but nothing will really happen. And I think we're living in a time which requires action. It requires people to move forward and to create new ways, new systems, new pathways, new ways of living, being, thinking, feeling, interacting. This is all evident that we need to move towards something in a positive light. So I guess first questions first, like how do you integrate these teachings into life in a practical way?
Okay. Fantastic question, my friend. Okay. The first thing I would say is like, why don't I have a robe and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's not how I choose to be of service. It's that simple. I feel that I can do what it is that I came here to do by still being, as you said, fully integrated within society itself, rather than. And I've had lifetimes living in the mountain and living in the cave, so I know I already did that. So I can be of best service by, being the guy that does interviews on YouTube and writing books and doing classes and workshops. So I can be of higher service by being integrated within society rather than removing myself from society. If I felt I would do better for humanity by removing myself from society, I would have done it already
Mm.
without question. So I feel I can serve at the highest levels by doing what it is that I'm doing, which is why I choose to do it. Okay. So to your point about action, you're absolutely right. The love light namaste. Listen, love without wisdom is self destruction. And that's what that bullshit is. That's what that bullshit is. The love light namaste crowd has made people completely disempowered and broke. Completely. So if spirituality, this is how I see it, my friend. And I don't even like using the word spirituality because it's been co-opted, right?
Sure.
It means the whole love light and it's all good and it's all love. It just promotes passivity, is what it promotes.
Yes.
Passivity, right? Okay. Bullshit. Okay. So if and we'll use the word spirituality even though I detest it. So true spirituality is only worth anything if it can't be applied to your everyday moment to moment life. Otherwise, it's useless. It's absolutely useless. It doesn't make sense to we go about doing everything the same, but no, you know what? These next 30 minutes, I'm gonna go in my room and get my crystals and light my incense, and I'm gonna listen to some music and I'm gonna meditate. Who the hell cares about any of that stuff? That is not going to impact your everyday moment to moment life. That is not going to imbue and infuse the actions that you take in this life. That's not going to impact your life, your family, your kids, your friends, your business, your town, your country, the planet. That kind of stuff is useless. It's
Mm,
absolutely useless. And all of those things, if you notice, none of them talk about harnessing your will or harnessing your intention to make something happen. There's a reason why they don't talk about that, because the love, light, and namaste is bullshit. It's a distraction to disempower you. So true spirituality, if it's worth anything, it is worthwhile for your everyday moment to moment life, how you actually lead your life. And that's why I write these books and these classes and these courses, because these things are not set aside for, okay, just go about your day every day. And then for a half hour out of your day, listen to this guided meditation and and do what RJ says.
mm,
It's useless. It's absolutely useless, right? We are a fractal of God. If we don't feel free and completely and utterly empowered, then we don't get it. Then we don't get it. And that's why all that other bullshit, they never talk about strength. Then it never talks about your will. It never talks about harnessing your intention. It never talks about self discipline. It never talks about any of those things. And there's a reason for that. This is the opposite. For those that want to change their life, this is actually why I'm here. This is not about we're all going to wear a robe, as you were saying. We're all going to
mm,
wear a robe, right? Get our hookah and just sing kumbaya, and it's all good. Love without wisdom is self-destruction. This is the absolute opposite. These are the supreme teachings of metaphysics for self-healing, manifestation, deprogramming your mind to master yourself. This applies to every single moment of our life. And it's only then that spirituality, and I use the word metaphysics, are worthwhile. It must be able to be applied all the time or it's useless.
mm. We are in a precarious situation in the world at the moment. I mean, to give you a little insight with this particular podcast, I started it off the back of all of the rubbish that was happening in 2020 with the pandemic, right? So it was something that was innate within me that kind of felt there's a duty that I have to call out the bullshit when it was happening. So I kind of spoke out about it, and I got really attacked, I guess, for having a belief system that was, different from others. But it led me to this moment, which is to interview experts all around the world about things that I have some knowledge of, but they can speak to their expertise. So I kind of took the action to kind of have some sort of an impact on other people's minds in a way that could align our thought processes to the degree that we can say, I've got some new information here, but I always say at the end of every podcast or throughout the podcast is to say, like, okay, now that we know this, like, what do we do? What's the resolution? What's the solution to all of these problems? Because the way I see it is that uh, I guess, like, the way that you coin, the answers that are within, everything is always innately within us. We always have the answers. We are God incarnated, or a projection of God. Um, and I feel like in the world, the challenges and problems that we face all have a solution. There's nothing that is a current problem that doesn't have a solution, or hasn't had a solution for maybe many decades, yet we're here facing the same sort of problem. So when I look at, for example, America, and Australia follows America like very closely in terms of your political views and anything to do with economy and all those sorts of things, you know, I see a change of leadership, but I also see a lot of like, you know, two sides of the same coin, right? And there seems to be a movement which is moving towards you know, healthy America and all those sorts of things, right? But at the same time, there seems to be this sort of, you mentioned the word co-opted. There seems to be this sort of like you know, it's the same sort of it's the same system just with a shiny new wrapper. Does that make sense? All right. So I guess in wrapping this up, I would love to get your take on the world and maybe a message as to what you think would be part of the solution to some of the problems and some of the challenges that we face, and what could we do as society, as a part of this global movement, I guess, to try and create a change, or be at least to be a force of change.
Yeah. Okay. So the truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay. So just kind of just sit with that. I know it's just a simple sentence, but it's not, right? The truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do. Okay. If we all can let that land, that changes the landscape right away. Right away. Just that. And what I said is an eternal truth, right? It's not an opinion. I don't deal with opinions, right? Okay. So if we start to operate from that, we're going to cut out 75% of all the bullshit that goes on this planet just by that, just by not participating. Because if you're participating, it ain't the truth because it means it requires you have to do something, right? Why? Right? Okay. So we start with that. The second thing is the more detached, and this is challenging. That none of this is
Mhm.
easy. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy. It's simple though. It is simple. Only the fragmented mind complicates things. And what we're talking about does not come from the fragmented mind. The universal mind is where this comes from. Okay. So when we are detached, meaning we are simply observing, right? We don't have what is it, a dog in that race or a horse in the race. We're not rooting one way, right? So we're just detached, right? Kind of like when you watch a boring movie, you kind of like, I don't really give a shit what happens in this movie. I'm not into it. So I don't really care. So I could just kind of sit back and just, okay. If we actually start to adopt a little bit of that, that detachment will give us discernment as to what feels right and what doesn't feel right. Those two things, Adrian, the truth doesn't require your participation, lies do, and take a step back and be very detached. Because physical sensory perception, and that's the data stream that feeds the intellect and the thought process, the logic and linear bound thought process of the human mind. If we're detached, what we can start to intuitively feel not only the answer, but intention. What is the intention behind these world events that are going on? Just like you said, I mean, shiny new rapper sound, feels, it sounds great. This is what a step in the right direction.
Mhm.
Okay. So when we can step back, we will see things for what they are. And now we can take action based upon detachment, which gives us the discernment. And the discernment will give us clarity about what feels right and what doesn't. So that's all it takes. I'm not going to say those things are easy. I'm not. I'm going to say they're that simple though, right? The truth doesn't require your participation; lies do. So that's number one. If you got to do a whole bunch of stuff, I would question that. I would question that. And then number two, just detach from the whole thing. Don't have a vested interest either way. Don't root for one party. Don't have a savior complex either. By the way, I have to save anyone. I have to. No, you don't. You're just here to wake up and to realize yourself. Self-realization, to realize yourself. Those two things will take humanity on a completely different course. Just those two things. All the inner knowingness. When you're present and you're detached, the inner guidance system is on. It's on. It's when you're identified and attached, you have no inner guidance system turned on. There's no intuitive functionality. There's no wisdom flowing to you on the river of intuition because you're so caught up in what's going on. And
Mm.
then you don't know what to do because the intuitive functionality is turned off. So those two things will completely redirect the course that humanity has taken. And you're absolutely right about two sides to the same coin. You know, it's always to divide and conquer from within. It's always to, and it's always for us to argue with each other. And it's always for us to make it about Democrat or Republican, or country versus country, or president versus king, or this. It's always about that. It is always about us dividing ourselves, while those pulling the strings are never seen and they're always in the background. That's how they keep doing this over and over again. But by being detached, you won't fall for it. You won't fall for it because this is what is going on is a war, and it's a war that's been going on for a while, but it's a war that's played with consciousness. It would be too obvious if there were soldiers and whatever marching everywhere. That's too obvious. So as we advance our consciousness and we deal with certain entities and beings that are more advanced than human beings, they don't war like that. They don't war like that. They know how to manipulate the mind. And that's what
Mm.
we have here. We have a manipulation of the mind. What's implanted in your mind? Subliminal programming, putting things out there, right? So that we see it over and over again. So we become anesthetized to it. And we just expect it, which all is part of the love, light, and namaste thing about being passive. It all ties together. The whole thing ties together. So detached gives you discernment, gives you clarity, and watch what you're asked to participate in. That's all we have to do. Those two things, we will completely turn around the ship, and the ship will get turned around faster than people could possibly imagine if we implemented those two things.
Well, that's interesting. I'll have to sit on that one for a little bit. Yeah, there's a large part of me that wants to wrestle and grapple and fight, and yeah, and so I guess there's a fair bit of that I'll need to kind of sit with. But anyway,
That,
RJ,
by the way, Adrian, that's what
yeah,
they want you to do.
yeah, sure.
I just want to make that clear. They want you to get involved in that way. They want you because now they got you. See,
Mm.
the only way to win is not to play.
Yeah, I get that. I guess that, when you have a situation that is on your doorstep, like that's how do you how do you tackle it then? When you've got um someone like for example, government's trying to enforce a particular way that you can function in society. I mean, yeah, sure, you can not play in that scenario. Um, Although it is a little difficult to kind of get around in the way that you are used to, right? And if by not playing are you getting what you tolerate? Does that make
Well,
sense?
whatever, perfect sense. Whatever you accept, you deserve.
Sure.
Okay. Now,
Where does the
just
fight come in?
yeah. So in that circumstance, let's just look at that circumstance. A government, an authoritarian government, wants to impose the way that they want you to live or not live, right?
Mhm.
They want to
Yeah.
impose it. Oh, okay. And we got that going on right now. Okay. So if everyone doesn't comply, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to
Dissolve.
put everyone in jail.
Mm.
This is this is what I mean. The answers are always simple. People talk about taxes in America, which is ridiculous, and other countries, ridiculous. It's like, oh, we got to get rid of this. Hope Trump does this. Listen, if we all stop paying taxes, it's over. How about that? How about some unity? We just stop. Everyone stops en masse. What happens? They're gone. Where they're going to? How are they going to enforce it? How do they enforce that? If we, this is what I mean. We have all the power. We've always had all the power. They are praying and manipulating that we don't realize this. That's why all this song and dance is for. All the charades, all the stuff that they march in front of us all on the news and this and that, and doomsday and this and that, is to always keep us on our heels and never actually resting in our power. We have all the power. We have all the power. And for some reason, we're asking for permission from the authoritarians if we can use it.
Mm.
It's
Makes no sense.
backwards. It's backwards, my friend. When we decide, hey, you know what? Done with this bullshit, whatever this bullshit is. Everybody, are we in agreement? Yes. That will end the day that we all say we're in agreement because they can't enforce it. End of story. End of story. Right? This is how you do it. We have to do it together. And this is part of why, like you said, you just decided to do a podcast. You decided to do these things so we could have some kind of unifying thought process. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I'm in complete and utter agreement. But there are ways to do this to be successful. I know what it takes to be successful at anything, and I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. But this is how we do it as a collective. We have the power, we exercise it. Not can I ask the people trying to hold me down if I can use my power, which is what we're doing. We keep asking officials if it's okay. Stop. Stop outsourcing your power and command it the way that you were intended to. The fact that it's your birthright, use it. And then this planet will change overnight.
Mm. Amen. Ajay, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been great. I was
Likewise.
really excited about it, leading up to it. I know it's been a long time coming, so I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to your new book. I've listened to your first two, so I'm keen to get this new one coming out. For those that are interested in you and wanting to know more about you, where's the best place to find you?
Ascend the frequency. It's a long URL. Ascendthefrequencies.com is the website. There's classes and courses that I'm always teaching. I have a vast library of too many courses and meditations to actually try to relay at this point. But when someone wants to take a class or take a course or get a meditation, go to the website. And once you purchase something, it gives you entree into this entire vault of knowledge that's almost incomprehensible. And then you can start to avail yourself of certain things. But the website is ascendthefrequencies.com. The new book is The Law of Attention. In fact, new book is right here.
Yeah,
And
nice.
the subtitle is The Secret Enlightened Metaphysics for Powerful Reality Creation, Money Manifestation, and Higher Intuitive Functionality, including conversations with God, spells by Merlin, poems by Shakespeare, and teachings by Saint Germain.
Mm.
So there's never been a book like this one, and I hope everyone avails themselves of it because it will completely and utterly change their life.
Awesome. I'll chuck that all in the show notes so people can come and have a look at your work. I highly recommend they do. I really love your books, mate, and I actually love more so that you are reading them too, because now that I'm talking to you, it's just like listening to your voice again in the books and things like that. So I think that's a real credit to you. So yeah, once again, I appreciate you. Thank you for this conversation, and I hope we can circle back sometime soon and do it all again. Okay?
That sounds good. It was a pleasure. I'm glad we finally got to connect. So it was a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Thanks, Adrian.
My pleasure. Okay. Have a great day.
You too. You too.
Take care.